What's up, guys? Got kind of a all over. It's upper and lower bumper, both fenders, both set of doors, and then both bedsides. So everything except the roof, the hood, and the tailgate. Pretty simple. Start off with some pre-cleaning, like always. Glass cleaner. Just helps saves the cost on waterborne and wax and grease remover all the time, but you still have to use those, and sometimes those help better than a glass cleaner. But between me and you, the glass cleaner is still fun to use. I like using red Scotch-Brite for the edges, and especially since I'm going to be painting pretty much this whole thing, you can go a little bit crazy with it. I use 500 grit sandpaper on my DA, and I limit that just to the damaged areas. I'll use 800 grit on all the blend panels. Next, we're going to hit it with that 800 grit I was just talking about, and that's where this pre-cleaning comes in real handy. It helps your sandpaper last forever. Pretty much did the whole side of the vehicle, get all done, and then we'll blow everything off and then get it ready for some UV primer. Throw some wax and grease remover on everything just to make sure the tape sticks. Then you gotta use your microfiber rag to wipe it all down and wipe it all off. Busting out this tape caddy from Collision Edge. This is called the tape thing. They sell it on Amazon, sell it on collisionedge.com. They sell it at thespraysource.com. You gotta get you one, man. It'll change your life. Make some photo edge tape or flutter tape with my leg. I like using 1.5 inches because whenever you use the 3/4 inch tape, it just doesn't have enough backing when you make the flutter part, you know? It's just like there's not enough stickiness left after you make the flutter. I like the 1.5 inches because when I make my flutter tape and stick it on there, I can go straight to plastic. But as I always say, there are 1,000 different roads all leading to the same destination. As long as you end up with the same result, I mean, you can do whatever you want. Next, we're going to go ahead and bag it up. UV primer does not really overspray like catalyzed primer does, but since I had so many spots to prime, it was much easier just using a bag. Little hyperspeed cutting and tape action showing how my tape caddy is thebomb.com. You gotta check it out, get you one if you haven't. Using some 9002 UV primer with my 3M primer gun and a tinted 3M PPS cup. We're gonna do 3 coats of UV primer. I flashed it for about a minute before I hit it with the UV light for about a minute, and then I put on, like I said, about 3 coats. I was in a bit of a rush, so I didn't get a chance to actually show me or record myself using the UV light, but just believe it is cured. Next, we're gonna grab some 320 grit sandpaper on our Durablock, and then we're just gonna block all our primer flat, throw on some guide coat, and then we're gonna hit it with some 500 grit just to sand out those straight 320 scratches. And then we're gonna use our 500 grit on the DA over the guide coat until we don't see the guide coat anymore. Pretty simple. Once we hit all the big areas that we could with our DA, I like to take our red Scotch-Brite and hit all the edges. And then when it comes to the truck, you just rinse and repeat. Block it with 320, throw on some guide coat, sand it with 500 grit on a DA, and then hit all the edges and all the other spots you couldn't DA with the red Scotch-Brite. Alrighty, if you're new here and you do not know what guide coat is, it's the black powder that you put on before you sand it with your DA after you block it. And what that does, the black powder just sits in any cracks and crevices, like the straight line sand scratches that your blocking leaves. And then you can just use your DA to sand those scratches out. Otherwise, it would be a lot harder to see them. We're going to give it pretty much our final blow job, and we're going to hit it with wax and grease remover so we can go ahead and get it taped up. This is going to be the last time we hit it with wax and grease remover, because from now on in the booth we'll just hit it with some waterborne cleaner and we'll be ready to paint. Of course, when cleaning with any type of chemical cleaners or any of the cleaners that we use, I have to clean with a microfiber rag. It saves money and cost on wipes, and then you can just throw it in the wash when you're all done with them. For my prep deck or slash booth preparation, I like to use dust control for the floor. It's from 3M. I believe it's 06837, but I could be wrong. Once we get it in the booth, hit it with some glass cleaner, knock off that final bit of dust, and then I get it all taped up. Once it's all taped up, I like to use waterborne cleaner. I like to get one rag really wet, keep the other one dry. So I do a wipe on, wipe off method. Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off. One of the main things about wiping it down with waterborne cleaner, you kind of don't want it to evaporate on the panel. You want to just keep wiping with a dry one until it's completely evaporated, because sometimes it'll leave a film and that can cause fish eyes or problems when you lay your base sealer or whatnot. After wiping it down, we tack it off with our tack rag. Then we grab our stat gun and we blow it off. Make sure you hit the plastic as well that's close to your project, because that also can have a static charge as well. Using some 1K etch on any of the cut throughs that I see. UV primer is kind of hard to see on camera, but when you use it in person, you should be able to tell if there's a cut through or not, because the cut through will look shiny and won't look dull, but you'll be able to see. You just have to use it to see it. The camera doesn't pick it up very well. I'm using my Cytojet 5500 130 tip. For the sealer, we're using Spies Hector 5650 waterborne sealer. Once everything is sealed, you got to make sure you get off that sealer overspray. So we grab our green Santara tack rag. We make sure we pull it apart to activate it, and then we wipe our panel. And then you can see it got off all the extra overspray. We make sure we do that to the whole vehicle. And anytime you wipe anything on a vehicle, it creates a static charge, so then you want to hit it with the stat gun. Using my lumaiii Exodus for base. And this black base is UM from Ford. My lumaiii Exodus is handling this base perfectly, got 26 PSI. And I make sure I get everything covered up. Pretty much paint the whole side of this. Alrighty, lastly, we're using lumaiii Exodus for clear. And we're doing 2 coats of Spies Hector 8600 High Solids Optimum Clear. Missed a little spot, but that's alright. We're not perfect, but we aim to be, so we'll just get better with each job. And just do your best to spray it like a robot. And we're all done. Came out glassy. Big jobs in the prep deck come out a little bit dirtier than I would like them, but you can always nib, sand, and buff those later. The majority of it is done. Bumpers had rock chips in them, so they look a little bit dirty, but... And if you made it this far to see the final results, I greatly appreciate you. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for me.